She was sister to an emperor, wife to another, and mother to one of the most infamous rulers in Roman history. But Agrippina the Younger wasn't just a woman near power. She was power, and Rome would never be the same after her. Born in 15 AD, Julia Agrippina, later known as Agrippina the Younger, was imperial royalty from birth. She was the daughter of Germanicus, Rome's beloved general, and Agrippina the Elder, the granddaughter of Augustus himself. She was also the sister of Caligula. Her bloodline was among the purest in the empire. Germanicus was the nephew and heir apparent of the second emperor Tiberius, but her childhood was marked by tragedy. Her father died under suspicious circumstances, and her mother and 2 brothers were later imprisoned and killed by Emperor Tiberius. By the time she was a teenager, Agrippina knew that survival in Rome required cunning and ruthlessness. After her 13th birthday in AD 28, Tiberius arranged for Agrippina to marry her paternal first cousin once removed, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, and ordered the marriage to be celebrated in Rome. Tiberius died on the 16th of March, 37, and Agrippina's only surviving brother, Caligula, became the new emperor. Being the emperor's sister gave Agrippina some influence. Agrippina and her younger sisters, Julia Drusilla and Julia Livilla, received various honours from their brother. Around the time that Tiberius died, Agrippina had become pregnant. Domitius had acknowledged the paternity of the child. On 15th December, AD 37, in the early morning in Antium, Agrippina gave birth to a son. Agrippina and Domitius named their son Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus after Domitius's recently deceased father, the boy who would grow up to become the infamous Emperor Nero. On 10th June, Anno Domini 38, Drusilla died, possibly of a fever rampant in Rome at the time. Caligula was particularly fond of Drusilla, claiming to treat her as he would his own wife, even though Drusilla had a husband. Following her death, Caligula showed no special love or respect toward the surviving sisters and was said to have gone insane. In AD 39, Agrippina and Livilla, with their maternal cousin, Drusilla's widower Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, were involved in a failed plot to murder Caligula, a plot known as the Plot of the Three Daggers, which was to make Lepidus the new emperor. Lepidus, Agrippina, and Livilla were accused of being lovers. At the trial of Lepidus, Caligula felt no compunction about denouncing them as adulteresses, producing handwritten letters discussing how they were going to kill him. The 3 were found guilty as accessories to the crime. Lepidus was executed. Agrippina and Livilla were exiled by their brother to the Ponza in the Pontine Islands, an archipelago of small volcanic islands about 70 miles away from Rome. Claudius lifted the exiles of Agrippina and Livilla. Livilla returned to her husband, while Agrippina was reunited with her estranged son, Lucius. After the death of her first husband, Domitius, Agrippina tried to make shameless advances on the future Emperor Galba. He showed no interest, being devoted to his wife Aemilia Lepida. Claudius had Lucius's inheritance reinstated. Lucius became wealthier despite his youth. Shortly after, Gaius Sallustius Crispus Pacinus divorced Lucius's aunt Domitia Lepida the Elder, Lucius's first paternal aunt, so that Crispus could marry Agrippina. They married, and Crispus became a stepfather to Lucius. Crispus was an influential, wealthy and powerful man who served twice as consul. After Caligula was assassinated by the Praetorian Guard on 24th January 41, led by Cassius Chaerea, the Guard appointed Claudius as the rightful heir to the throne. During the first years of his reign, Claudius was married to the Empress Valeria Messalina. Messalina was Agrippina's paternal second cousin. Although Agrippina was very influential at this time, she kept a low profile and stayed away from the imperial palace and the court of the emperor. But it wasn't until her calculated return to court under Emperor Claudius that Agrippina's ambitions truly took shape. In AD 47, Crispus died. At his funeral, a rumour spread that Agrippina had poisoned Crispus to gain his estate. After being widowed a second time, Agrippina was left very wealthy. The following year, in 48 AD, Messalina was executed for conspiring with Gaius Silius to overthrow her husband. After ending his marriage, Claudius considered remarrying for the fourth time, and his advisors began discussing which noblewoman he should marry. Claudius had a reputation, he being easily persuaded, but it has been suggested that the Senate may have pushed for the marriage between Agrippina and Claudius to end the feud between the Julian and Claudian branches. This feud dated back to Agrippina's mother's actions against Tiberius after the death of Germanicus. Another reason was to bring in Agrippina's son, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, as a candidate for the succession. His prestige as the descendant of Augustus and Germanicus would have helped the survival of Claudius's regime. On New Year's Day, in AD 49, she married her uncle, Emperor Claudius, a politically explosive move that shocked the Senate but consolidated her grip on the imperial throne. Shortly after marrying Claudius, Agrippina eliminated her rival Lollia Paulina by persuading Claudius to charge Paulina with allegations of black magic use. Claudius stipulated that Paulina did not receive a hearing and her property was confiscated. She left Italy, but Agrippina was unsatisfied. Allegedly, on Agrippina's orders, a tribune forced Lollia Paulina to commit suicide. Agrippina was no ceremonial wife. She took part in imperial decisions, received foreign ambassadors, and even had coins minted with her image, an honour almost never granted to imperial women. In the same year, Agrippina was seated on a dais at a parade of captives when their leader, the Celtic king Caratacus, bowed before her with the same homage and gratitude as he accorded the emperor. In AD 50, Agrippina was granted the honorific title of Augusta. She was the third Roman woman after Livia Drusilla and Antonia Minor, and only the second living Roman woman, the first being Livia, to receive this title. In her capacity as Augusta, Agrippina quickly became a trusted advisor to Claudius, and by AD 54 she exerted a considerable influence over the decisions of the emperor. Statues of her were erected in many cities across the empire, and her face appeared on official Roman coins unambiguously, a first for a living empress. In the Senate, her followers were advanced with public offices and governorships. She listened to the Senate from behind the scenes. She also secured Nero's adoption by Claudius, placing her son in direct line for succession. Agrippina and Claudius betrothed Nero to his stepsister Claudia Octavia, and Agrippina arranged to have Seneca return from exile to tutor the future emperor. Claudius chose to adopt Nero because of his Julian and Claudian lineage. Agrippina deprived Britannicus of his heritage and further isolated him from his father and succession to the throne in every way possible. For instance, in AD 51, Agrippina ordered the execution of Britannicus's tutor, Sosibius. Sosibius had confronted her, outraged by Claudius's adoption of Nero and his choice of Nero as successor over his own son Britannicus. Nero and Octavia were married on the 9th of June AD 53. Claudius later regretted marrying Agrippina and adopting Nero and began to favour Britannicus, preparing him for the throne. These actions gave Agrippina a motive to allegedly eliminate Claudius. Claudius eventually became aware of her plotting. Ancient sources say she poisoned Claudius on the 13th of October AD 54 with a plate of deadly mushrooms at a banquet, thus enabling Nero to quickly take the throne as emperor. Accounts vary wildly with regard to this private incident, and according to more modern sources, it is possible that Claudius died of natural causes, being 63 years old. In the aftermath of Claudius's death, Agrippina, who initially kept the death secret, tried to consolidate power by immediately ordering that the palace and the capital be sealed. After all the gates were blockaded and exit of the capital forbidden, she introduced Nero first to the soldiers and then to the senators as emperor at just 16. She now attempted to use her son's youth to participate in the rule of the Roman Empire. She enjoyed imperial prerogatives, being allowed to visit the Senate meetings from behind a curtain and appearing as a partner to her son in the official coinage and statues. In year 1 of Nero's reign, Agrippina began losing influence over Nero when he began to have an affair with the freedwoman Claudia Acte, which Agrippina strongly disapproved of and violently scolded him for. Agrippina began to support Britannicus in her possible attempt to make him emperor or to threaten Nero. The panicking emperor decided whether to eliminate his mother or his stepbrother. Soon, Nero had Britannicus secretly poisoned during his own banquet in February AD 55. The power struggle between Agrippina and her son had begun. Between AD 56 and 58, Agrippina became very watchful and critical of her son. In AD 56, Agrippina was forced out of the palace by her son to live in the imperial residence. However, Agrippina retained some degree of influence over her son for several more years, and they are considered the best years of Nero's reign. But as their relationship grew more hostile, Nero gradually began to deprive his mother of honours and power, and even removed her Roman and German bodyguards. As he continued to do what she disapproved of, he got frustrated and angry at her, and finally, in 59 AD, ordered her assassination. But Agrippina didn't die easily. According to legend, Nero first tried to sink her in a collapsing boat. When she swam ashore alive, he sent assassins to finish the job. As the story goes, when the blade was raised, Agrippina offered her womb, knowing it had birthed the monster now killing her. Mother, manipulator, monster. She is a woman remembered for scheming on emperors, reshaping dynasties, and placing her own son on the throne. But in the end, the empire she built devoured her. What do you think of Agrippina? Share your thoughts in the comments section.